The rain hadn't let up all morning. It slammed hard against the cracked windshield of Tyler Brooks' garage office as he wiped grease from his hands, tugged on his hoodie, and glanced at the dented wall clock. Nearly 2 p.m. Already behind on 2 oil changes and a transmission install. Just as he stepped toward the shop bay, he heard it, a slow, grinding screech, like metal protesting every turn of a wheel. A battered, old Ford pickup limped into the gravel lot, coughing out smoke like it had given up halfway to wherever it was supposed to go. The front left tire was almost off the rim. The engine wheezed like a dying animal. Tyler jogged over. Behind the wheel, a young woman looked frozen in a mix of frustration and panic. Her wavy brown hair clung to her cheeks, soaked from a dash through the rain. She was probably 25, maybe younger, but dressed like someone who had no business driving a wreck like that. A worn cardigan over a simple dress, a faint gold necklace, and shoes that had seen better days. "You all right?" Tyler asked, tapping the window. She rolled it down halfway. Her voice shook. I think the wheel's about to fall off. I don't know anything about cars. Let's take a look." He offered a calm smile. Tyler jacked the truck up right there in the mud, not bothering with rain gear. He examined the front suspension, then the frame. She watched quietly under the garage awning, shivering slightly as he worked. After about 15 minutes, he stood and walked over, wiping rain from his face. "You're lucky that didn't fall off on the highway. Whoever worked on this last didn't tighten a single thing. And that engine rattle? I'm 90% sure it's the spark plugs. And your belt's fraying. You driving far?" She hesitated. "I was heading to River, 2 hours east." Tyler nodded. "You won't make it past Maple Hollow in this. I can patch you up, get you running smooth again. Won't take more than an hour. You can wait in the office. There's coffee." "I don't know if I can afford." "You don't owe me a dime," Tyler interrupted. "Not today." Her mouth fell open slightly. "Why would you do that? You don't even know me." He just shrugged. "You're soaked, your truck's falling apart, and I've got the tools to help. That's enough for me." The look she gave him, confused, touched, like no one had ever just been kind for no reason, lingered in his mind long after she stepped into the office. Tyler replaced the spark plugs, tightened the front assembly, patched the belt temporarily, and even aired her tires. As he worked, he noticed small things, a leather briefcase on the floor of the truck, the edge of a silver badge poking from her bag. But he didn't ask. Everyone had secrets. Inside, she sat with her hands wrapped around a chipped mug. Her name, he learned casually, was Hannah. Just Hannah. She was passing through. That was all she said. When Tyler handed her the keys 2 hours later and said, "You're good to go," she just stared at him, silent. Then, without a word, she opened her wallet. "Don't," Tyler said gently. "Seriously. Go. Be safe." She looked like she might cry. Instead, she stepped forward, gripped his grease-stained hand in both of hers, and whispered, "No one's ever helped me like this without asking for something back." He smiled. Sometimes good people just do good things. She drove off, and Tyler figured that was that. But the next morning, everything changed. Because by 8 a.m., the town was swarming with black SUVs. And a helicopter thundered over the auto shop as a sleek silver limousine rolled to a stop in his dusty driveway. The door opened, and Hannah stepped out, flanked by security, dressed in designer clothes, looking like someone off a magazine cover. Tyler stared. Hannah walked right up to him, her eyes locked on his. "You didn't ask who I was yesterday," she said softly. "But today, I'm asking you something instead." "What?" he said, still stunned. She smiled, and it wasn't just gratitude in her eyes. There was admiration, emotion, something heavier. "I'd like to change your life. Forever." Tyler didn't move. His hands still held a wrench. His boots were caked in last night's mud. And now, standing a few feet away from him on the cracked concrete, was the same woman whose truck had barely made it through his gate just yesterday. Except now, she looked nothing like the woman he'd met. Her clothes were tailored. Cream blazer, black silk blouse, heels that didn't belong anywhere near a garage. Hair tied back, makeup subtle but pristine. A man in a black earpiece hovered behind her, watching everything. Tyler exhaled slowly. "So, you're not just passing through." She gave a small, apologetic smile. "I lied, but only because I didn't want anyone to know who I was. I needed a break from everything. Just one day of normal. No cameras, no handshakes, no pressure. He set the wrench down. So, who are you? She hesitated. Then, Hannah Sterling, CEO of Sterling Foundation. My family owns a lot of what you'd probably see in every major city in the country. Tyler blinked. That name, Sterling. It rang loud now. Tech real estate. Clean energy. Her father had been one of the richest men in America. Hannah had inherited it all after he died in a private plane crash 5 years ago. You're that Hannah Sterling, he said, almost laughing from the absurdity. The one who broke down in a rusted-out truck. Yeah, she said with a sheepish shrug. You could have taken advantage of that situation. You could have asked for money, or ignored me, or told me to wait. But you didn't. I'm not that guy, Tyler said simply. I know, she whispered. Then, a little louder, that's exactly why I'm here. The man behind her stepped forward and opened a leather folder. Hannah held up her hand. No, this has to come from me. She stepped closer, looking around the cluttered shop. This place, it's your life, isn't it? Tyler nodded. Built it myself. After Dad passed, I took what little we had and turned it into something. And what if I told you I could take what you built and give it wings? He frowned. I'm not looking to sell. I'm not here to buy, she said quickly. I'm here to invest. In you. She opened her bag and pulled out a glossy binder. Inside were blueprints, concepts, designs, a new facility, a national auto care initiative, training programs for veterans and ex-cons, state-of-the-art equipment, full funding, Tyler's name on everything. He stared down at the papers, then back at her. Why me? Because you didn't see a billionaire. You saw someone who needed help. And instead of asking who I was, you helped anyway. You showed me something the world hasn't shown me in years. Kindness. Tyler swallowed. This is huge. I mean, life-changing. There's more, she said. Her voice softened. When I broke down yesterday, I wasn't just escaping the media. I was trying to get away from something darker. Tyler looked at her more closely. Her jaw tightened. Her eyes clouded. I'm being pushed out of my own company, she said. By my father's former partner. The board is turning. And I needed to disappear before I made a decision I'd regret. Tyler's brows furrowed. Why tell me this? Because I need someone I can trust. Someone real. Someone with nothing to gain by betraying me. He blinked. What are you saying? I don't just want to fund your dream, she said quietly. I want you to come with me. Help me take back what's mine. Be part of something that actually matters. Tyler stood there in silence, trying to process what was happening. Yesterday, he was fixing rusted mufflers. Today, a billionaire stood in his garage, offering him not just a better life, but a war to fight beside her. And if I say no, he asked carefully. She smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. Then I drive away, and you'll never see me again. But you'll still have a full grant, a new shop, everything. No strings attached. Tyler looked around at the grease-stained walls, the flickering overhead lights, the old posters on the wall from when his dad first opened the place. Then he looked at her, and something in him shifted. He wasn't the kind of man who chased power. But when you see someone who's drowning, and you've got a hand to offer, you don't stand still. I'm in, he said finally. Hannah exhaled, like she'd been holding her breath all day. Thank you. As she turned to walk back to her limo, she paused at the door. One more thing, she said over her shoulder. You saved my life yesterday. You just don't know it yet. Tyler didn't sleep that night. Not because he doubted his decision, but because something about the way Hannah had looked at him before stepping into that limo haunted him. That calm, controlled exterior she wore like armor. It had cracked, just for a second, and beneath it, he saw a woman drowning in betrayal, fear, and pressure. By morning, the silence in his tiny house felt louder than usual. He stood at the sink, coffee mug in hand, staring out at the rising sun spilling over the backwoods of Fern Valley. Just yesterday, his biggest problem had been a late parts delivery. Now he was involved in a corporate war. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. He answered. Yeah. Get dressed, Hannah's voice said softly. A driver will be there in 10 minutes. And just like that, it began. The car ride was quiet, sleek, and fast. Tyler sat in the back seat of a matte black town car that could have been mistaken for government issued. Hannah sat beside him, tapping through a tablet, her expression unreadable. You okay? He asked eventually. No, she looked up. But I will be, if we play this right. He hesitated. You never told me what they're trying to do. She paused, like she was choosing her words carefully. My father's old partner, Ellis Crane. He was a second father to me growing up. When Dad passed, Ellis helped me keep the board from selling off her holdings. But I was young, naive. I didn't see what he was really doing. And what was he doing? Positioning himself, she said, slowly, quietly, filling the board with people loyal to him, funneling money into shell ventures, leaking internal documents, framing me as unstable. He's been using my grief to build a coup from within. Tyler absorbed that in silence. Last month, she added, he forged my approval on a merger with a corrupt biotech firm that uses slave labor overseas. I refused to cover for it, so they made me look erratic. Said I was grieving too hard. Emotional. Weak. That's disgusting, he muttered. She smiled bitterly. Welcome to billion-dollar boardrooms. It's a lot like high school, but with lawyers. They pulled up to a massive estate, one Tyler had only seen in magazines. Sterling Manor, the original family residence. Polished white pillars, circular driveway, a 10-foot gate manned by armed guards. Inside, everything gleamed. Glass walls, marble floors, oil paintings that probably cost more than his entire shop. But none of it felt warm. It felt cold, controlled, like a fortress hiding rot. She led him to her private office, surprisingly small compared to the rest of the house. Books lined the walls. A piano sat by the window, collecting dust. This was my father's study, she said. I come here when I need to think. Tyler nodded. So what's the plan? She turned slowly, eyes locked on his. We exposed them. Every dirty contract. Every embezzled dollar. Every board member they've corrupted. That sounds risky, he said, folding his arms. They'll come after you. They already have, she whispered. But if I go down, I'm not going down alone. There was a sharpness in her voice now, one Tyler hadn't heard before. Not fear, not pride, fire. And that's when he saw it. This wasn't just about saving her company. This was personal. The next few days blurred into a frenzy. Tyler worked at night in his garage, then spent afternoons in Hannah's study, helping her comb through encrypted emails, contracts, and whistleblower account from inside her foundation. He wasn't a tech genius, but he was a damn good reader of people. He could smell lies. He could feel when something didn't line up. And slowly, piece by piece, they built a case. Hannah grew colder during these sessions, sharp, focused, and exhausted. Tyler saw how much she carried. Her employees still thought she was away on medical leave. The public hadn't seen her in a week. Gossip blogs were already calling her unstable. But every time she walked into the garage to bring him coffee, or asked about his mom's old recipes, or helped him stack tools just to get out of her head, he remembered the woman from the first day. The one who didn't care how much money she had. The one who just needed someone real. It was a Wednesday night, storm clouds rolling in again, when everything snapped. Tyler had gone back to the garage to pick up a flash drive he'd forgotten. When he returned to the estate, he found the front gates wide open. Lights were off. Alarm silent. His stomach dropped. He ran inside. Hannah. No answer. He rushed through the hall, breath shallow, boots pounding against polished marble. Then he found her, on the office floor, hands shaking, blood on her lip. A glass sculpture shattered beside her. Tyler dropped to his knees. What happened? Her voice trembled. They sent someone. He said it was a message, that if I didn't stop digging, next time he wouldn't leave me breathing. Tyler's jaw clenched. He wiped blood from her mouth gently. They think they can scare you into silence. She nodded weakly. Then they don't know you at all, he said darkly. Her eyes locked with his. For the first time, she didn't look like a billionaire, or a CEO, or a woman hiding pain. She looked like someone on the edge of breaking. And Tyler made a silent promise right then. He wasn't going to let her fall. Tyler didn't leave Hannah's side that night. He bandaged the cut on her cheek with a steady hand, but his jaw was locked tight the entire time. He barely spoke, not because he didn't care, but because he was furious. And when Tyler Brooks got quiet, that meant something inside him had snapped. She sat curled up on the leather couch in her study, blanket wrapped around her, eyes red but clear. She'd stopped crying, but her voice, it had changed. It had gone still, hollow. He looked me in the eye, she whispered, and said, "You had your chance. You should have stayed gone." Tyler sat beside her, elbows on his knees. "You still have a chance, but not if you keep playing defense." "What else is there to do, Tyler?" she asked, broken. "They bought judges, media, the board. I can't even tell who's still on my side. They've erased me." He turned to her, voice low and deliberate. Then it's time to stop asking for a seat at their table and flip the damn table instead. She stared at him. I want to show you something, he said. They drove to his garage in silence. The storm hadn't broken yet, but the clouds above Fern Valley churned with electricity. In the back of his office, Tyler opened a small safe behind a shelf. He pulled out an envelope and handed it to her. Inside, photographs, documents, signed affidavits, all of it relating to Ellis Crane. Back when Tyler had done auto work for a subcontractor who'd been quietly paid off to dump industrial waste in a Fern Valley's water supply 15 years ago. Tyler's father had tried to expose it. 2 weeks later, the bank seized their first garage, claimed it was unpaid debt. A week after that, his dad died of a stroke. Ellis didn't just destroy your legacy, Tyler said. He destroyed mine too. I've been sitting on this for years, waiting, watching, hoping someone else would care enough to dig. Hannah flipped through the documents, realization dawning. These signatures, they match Ellis's contracts for the offshore merger. Exactly. And if we trace it back, we can prove corporate fraud and environmental crime. Public outrage won't be enough, Tyler warned. We need it all. Paper trails, witnesses, something so big, even their lawyers can't touch it. Hannah stared at the documents, and for the first time in days, she smiled. Not a polite smile. Not for the cameras, but something real, raw. I knew I was right about you, she said softly. Tyler's gaze lingered on her face. What do you mean? You're the only person who didn't want anything from me. Not money, not attention. You just saw me. I still do, he replied. The next 3 days were chaos. Tyler and Hannah worked in secret, using burner phones, encrypted drives, fake names at hotels where they met former employees of Sterling Industries who had been paid to stay quiet. A former compliance officer, a data analyst, even an ex-facility cleaner who'd been fired for asking too many questions. One night, after 16 straight hours without sleep, Hannah passed out at the desk. Her head slumped against a pile of files, hair messy, breathing soft. Tyler covered her with his jacket and sat across from her, watching her sleep. Something was changing in him. He hadn't realized how much of himself he'd buried under routines and heartbreak until she walked into his life. And despite all her money, her titles, her walls, she needed him just as badly as he needed her. Not for what he could do, but for who he was. 2 days later, they had everything. A full document chain exposing Ellis's decades of fraud, stolen patents, human rights violations, and rigged internal elections. Enough to take down the entire board. But that wasn't the plan. Hannah wanted to destroy them publicly. Not just in court, but in every shareholder's inbox, every journalist's laptop, and every screen in America. So they scheduled a live broadcast under the guise of a foundation relaunch. At 9 a.m., they stood behind a glass podium in front of 30 media outlets. Hannah took a slow breath, and then she stepped up and told the truth. Every detail, every betrayal. She exposed her own company, named names, cried once, then wiped her tears away and kept going. Tyler stood at the edge of the room, silent, watching her not as a mechanic or a partner, but as a man in awe of a woman who refused to be silenced. When she finished, there was dead silence. Then applause. Then chaos. News vans swarmed. Board members fled. FBI involvement followed hours later. That night, they stood on the roof of the Sterling Tower, watching helicopters circle like vultures in the dark. Hannah turned to him, wind whipping her hair. You know what you did, right? She asked. I fixed a truck, he said with a half smile. No, she stepped closer. You fixed me. Their eyes locked. For a moment, the world stopped spinning. Then she leaned in and kissed him. Not a show. Not a thank you. Just real. Raw. Quiet. 2 weeks later, the world knew everything. Ellis Crane was arrested. The Sterling board resigned. Whistleblowers came forward in waves. And Hannah? She became a national icon overnight. Not for being a billionaire, but for standing up to billionaires. But in the quiet moments, she didn't feel powerful. She felt tired. Raw. Changed. She sat on the back of Tyler's pickup, legs swinging, watching the small-town sunrise with a blanket over her shoulders. Tyler passed her coffee. You still planning on moving the HQ? She sipped. I'm done with towers and suits. I want real work. Something that helps people. Scholarships. Vocational programs. Grants for single moms. He smiled. You're not just building a company now. You're building a life. She looked at him. And what about your life? Tyler glanced at the garage behind him. It's been good to me. But maybe it's time I do more than fix cars. Maybe I fix systems too. A soft laugh escaped her. Are you saying you'll work with me? I'm saying. He stepped closer, eyes locked with hers. I'll go wherever you are. She leaned into him, resting her head on his shoulder. Good. Because I don't want any of this without you. By month's end, the Sterling Foundation rebranded. Hannah made Tyler head of community infrastructure. Cameras followed them everywhere, but Tyler stayed grounded, quiet, still the man who helped her, just because he could. And every time someone asked her why she trusted him so much, Hannah gave the same answer. Because when the world saw a billionaire, he saw a woman with a broken truck, and helped anyway.